Wait, you look kind of hazy out there. Let me just miss you. Wait, there we go. Okay, so that was number 110 on our top 200 ever countdown. Now stay tuned. We've got the Jackson 5 unplugged, which means the Jackson 5 without their instruments, and it's actually without the Jackson 5. So stay tuned. Either way, but I am here to inform you that you do have a right, and that's your right to vote. You realize there's 26 million people all between the ages of 18 and 24? 26 million people. And we can make a crazy difference. As a matter of fact, we can
put the commercials in.
And we can rock the vote.
Just rock the vote.
So let's do that.
It's trying to get kids to vote.
When you are making a list of the greatest achievements of this century, please consider Subway 79-cent round.
I got some earrings. I got at the computer machine box. Sometimes I like blinking light or something. There was this one, no, it was really high tech. Performance art? I don't know what you call it. Yeah, I guess it's performance art. Yeah, definitely. It was cyber performance art. What it was this other woman made this program in the computer that was 3D animation and this different background thing, like almost a story, a poetry story. And they shot her, and she was a cyber performer in the video, so she was always keeping the rainforest. So they cut down the rainforest to raise the beef, cows or whatever, and they really wasn't made for that, so it's destroying the natural kind of environment with the nuts that.
So, Stephanie, a digital owl.
You should know that there's politicians out there voting.
So, vote for Pixels, huh?
Vote for Pixel and Harry for president, the team that'll bring you into the virtual world with virtually no problems.
Okay, so what do you think about the future?
Future is upon us, and we are planning for it, because just as those Yugoslavian animators were preparing to get that one little strip of film someday, because they couldn't afford it in the present time, they were getting themselves ready so when they did get that strip of film, they'd know what to do with it, and that's what we're about doing today.
All right. Okay.
Preparing ourselves for that great opportunity which awaits in that global market of creative space, giving the artists something that they all want, and access to each other's creativity and mind expanding intelligence in a way which we've never been able to experience before. But now we've tasted it, and now that we've tasted it, we can't wait to get back into that wonderful, enlightened, motivating stream of consciousness that isn't in virtual space in reality, it's in actual space.
Thank you.
Recording.
Hello.
Boy. Hi, Wes. So, what's your take on the whole thing today?
Which thing?
Everything. The whole thing of it, you know, the thing of life.
Well, the planets are moving towards the appropriate energy format that will allow IPIs and things like that to explode. And there are a lot of people out there who are showing their general resistance to it, and their general resistance to new ideas is being magnified by the overall flux that's conducive to an IPI. Now, when the energies are aligned, these people will have no choice but to go with it, or make themselves really tired all the time and miss out on all the fun. So all we have to do is hang in there until that happens, and have those bits of information that need to go to that film we're waiting for will be prepared. And I think we're doing that right now, and I think that it's probably going to be about 9 more days.
How many more days was that?
It should be in about 9 days.
Okay.
There's certain energy, there's certain patterns of activity that had to happen before the beginning of October, and they did. So just a few more days and it's all going to be lined up, because you can kind of tell these things when you know what to expect as far as an unusual occurrence, and then it happens. If you just leave things alone and do what you're doing, focus at your task at hand, you'll get it, and you won't interfere. It's almost anything you do right now is going to slow that process down, unless it's developing yourself and preparing yourself. It's like when you breathe, you have to exhale or else you can't inhale. If you hold your breath and wait for that next, it's never going to happen. So right now what we're doing is we're exhaling, getting rid of all the things we don't need from the stuff, the oxygen that we took in, kicking all the impurities out and getting ready for that next fresh breath. And that should be in about 9 days. And it's going to be a long breath before we go through the whole process again. And, it's been a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And this global community is preparing. And some people are worried, some people aren't worried, but it doesn't matter. It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I tuned back in when I heard that.
It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
So we're just vibrating with it. You know, I mean, in earlier times before we had the insulation of material reality and civilization that we suffer within, if you will, you know, the chances that that earlier peoples were able to pick up on the vibrations in nature and move large rocks to make monuments, and you know, they had a special sort of relationship to gravity at different places on the planet. I mean, I think the Earth's energies were perhaps more accessible to earlier peoples in antiquity, and we might be able to get back there through an electronic journey, so you can, in a sense, kind of return home in a way.
Where will we be returning to again?
Well, I mean, into some parallel zones with the people in antiquity who were able to tap into the vibrational forces of sound and light, which allowed them to be able to have different relationships to matter and nature than we have now, since we have been somewhat restricted and buffered by our material culture and the development of our civilization, both laws and physical walls. I could see a time when people were able to move large stones, perhaps even cut them with vibrational light and vibrational sound in order to build early towers and monuments, and that there were some sites on the planet, and continue to be some sites on the planet, that are less affected by the gravitational sort of forces that we know, in which matter and vibration have a different relationship. And I think we might be able to get back to a place through our investigations within electronic and optic space, cyberspace, if you will, to some parallel places, so we can sense those energies on the planet.
Okay. And Mr. Tabayoyong?
Oh, I totally agree. If you look at, you can look at the examples of what Shawn's talking about every day in simple life. If you accelerate a car from a standstill, it takes 30 or 40% more energy than if the car is even slightly moving. Because once something is ballistic in relation to gravity, which is a vertical force, it doesn't weigh anything. And if you can get a stone that weighs 30 tons vibrating, you can literally slide it along the surface of these rollers up a ramp with very little effort. I think that a Dominion is 13 people, a Minion is 12, and then Dominion's the head of the work crew is 13. They were able to move these things. Now, how could 13 people move a 30-ton stone? It must have been singing to get the thing up there. Plus, they were so much more in tune with the energy. So, people right now are convinced that things are hard to do. And I don't know, the people that are in this Institute of Higher Learning, the Slade Ranch, I pretty much bet my life that the people in this place involved with this IPI are going to bring this thing to fruition. And I don't have any doubt.
You bet your life.
Bet your life.
Do you bet yours?
Yes, I'm in the middle of placing that bet right now. I began placing it a while back earlier this year, and it's still there. And I think we've got a royal flush, if you will. And we're just holding our cards and playing our cards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah, I just can't wait. You know, this is the fun part, believe it or not. You know, because once it happens, everyone's just going to go, yeah. And nobody's really going to be surprised. But right now, there's lots of surprises, and the Chinese have this saying. It's actually a curse. May you live in interesting times. Things are interesting now, but once we get to this boring aspect of IPI world dominion, we're going to be able to take it from there. And once the ball gets rolling, we'll be able to go into deeper projects with this, into more expansion. And you know, we're dealing with elements now that are less and less physical. The cyber world is idea. That's magnetism. It doesn't really weigh anything. So we're getting more and more to what the mind and the thought is all about. And pretty soon it'll be just as easy to build houses from your mind, with your mind, as it is to build them in a virtual reality.
But what about our bodies? I mean, how's that going to work?
Well, I mean, we're getting once again perhaps back to that parallel place of immateriality. Electronic and optic space is being called immaterial. If you're moving a large stone with sound vibrations, then you're connecting sound and rock, for example, as if there was an immaterial connector between the two. So we'll get back there, and our bodies, of course, are immaterial in a certain sense, because we're made up of a series of atoms that connote flesh, which has a density to it, but we're in a very temporal state, and we enter these bodies and leave these bodies as if we existed on a kind of an immaterial basis. And you'll notice in our temporal physical state, we continually find everyone on the planet attracted in some way to the unknown quality of mystical, transcendent kind of energy. Even if they believe in it or don't, all of us are in some ways compelled by it. Mm-hmm. And that's the sort of notion of transcendent out of the body. You know what I mean? The sort of a resurrection of the body, leaving the body behind. All those motifs are deep in the psychic consciousness of every being on the planet, and perhaps even including animals, and who knows what nature understands about its own passages of renewal and destruction. I mean, right now we're in the middle of a situation in which we're being called upon as a group within IPI to sort of find out what we're going to sacrifice in order to create what we're going to create. And the times are arduous, and we're being forced to look at the kinds of things that we want to sacrifice, that we want to let come apart so that we can renew and build the IPI. And you're right, this is a very, very, very compelling time to be in the middle of this process.
We are, everything you're looking at, this video, this person you're looking at, is part of a virtual program that's created by some super being. If we create a virtual space, it's going to be less real, quote unquote, than the one that we come from. And if we consider ourselves as a virtual space that someone beyond us is playing with, then I would like to ask Shawn Lanier if he'd rather go that way or that way. Cannot help but talk to them about IPI, and certain people will respond, certain people won't respond. I'm finding now that it's not how anybody else responds to this activity but me, for myself. And if I can change what's going on inside, that will change my perception of the world. And that's all I can rely on, because there's only really two things that I have to be concerned with: everything that's inside me and everything that's outside me. And as far as how I perceive reality, that reality is something that I construct, and I can really get a sense of that when I'm doing IPI, which is why I'm hoping more of the great speakers on the planet, actors, politicians, sports figures, whatever, anybody who's a prominent figure, if they can get this experience, they will start to affect people with their responsibility or their priority, which they were sent here for, which was to communicate to the entire world on whatever level they're doing it. And I think that's a real trickle-down effect, because it doesn't, it's something that they will start to grow inside here. It's not something that's an assumed theoretical response to monetary considerations, which that's the theory.
In October of 1992, of course, we're in a situation where we're looking to recreate our so-called infrastructure, which is just another metaphor for strengthening our interconnectedness and providing a support base for everyone to kind of, thrive, express themselves. And there's a big dialogue going on now about whether or not that should be building more roads, or whether that should be consuming at a higher level of, in terms of product consumption. We don't have right now in physical space here in this country specifically a lot more places to dominate, a lot more buildings to build, a lot more highways to make in order for us to go down the so-called road of progress. So I think what's going to happen when we start looking at rebuilding our infrastructure, a lot of it's going to be involving with telecommunications. We might tear down some roads as part of strengthening our infrastructure. And we might have to honestly sort of like admit to each other and share with each other the realization that we're not going to go out there and build a whole bunch in America again on the strictly physical basis that we have been thinking about in the past. Now we're going to have to come together and create in ways that don't impact so strongly on the environment. So our interconnectednesses and our infrastructure are going to be somewhat more immaterial.
Okay, now we're almost at the end of this tape. Let me ask you what you feel is the most important thing that we have accomplished to date.
I think we have connected up artists who worked simultaneously and shared a kind of a spiritual vision of what it means to be together in space. And the impact and the strength of being together on that basis as a kind of a vehicle, okay, an inspiration to do that on a larger basis globally.
Okay.
I think that the most important thing we've done so far is take up this, gotten in the saddle with this project, because a lot
for the world, a compelling interconnectedness like we're talking about. What's the physical ardor that will, that we need to produce within ourselves to connect up with our spiritual vision and dreams, aspirations, which will bring spirit into matter. Then that's what we're
creating. We have to find the systems that will allow for the proper nutrition for this new being. We have to find the environment that it can live in, or create that environment and modify it. If you were genetically producing this thing, engineering it, we'd be considering all the same stuff. It's